So, ladies and gentlemen, obviously a number of those questions actually relate in one form or another to the arrival, or the imminent arrival of COP28. And indeed, our first panel session of the day is dedicated to analysing what is the real nature of that road to COP28. For example, in COP27, we saw that perhaps quite surprisingly in many cases, the level of quite sophisticated commitment that nations in this region can have to the ongoing climate reform debate. Some very interesting discussions took place last year. This year, that debate will evolve even further. Also, what will be the impact and ramifications for government, the government sector, in the light of COP28? We just heard Majid's excellent presentation about the role of the Emirate of Dubai. What will be the interaction between the Emirates and the nature of the analysis and discussion we see at COP28? And in fact, I'm sure we're going to ask Majid a few questions about that in the very near future as well. Should be very enlightening indeed, I have no doubt. Lastly, but not least, what will be the impact to the COP28 discussions on the energy sector and the power companies themselves? No doubt there will be some very powerful analysis taking place. Are companies ready for debate at that level? And indeed, what can they do about it? So please, let's start welcoming our valued panelists to the stage. And it's a great pleasure, in no particular order, to announce the following. As I call your name and company name, please come and join me on the stage. So, Abdulatif Al-Batawi, Emirates Green Building Council. Good to see you here. Anita Nouri, Green Energy Solutions and Sustainability. Dr. Pablo Izquierdo, Ras Al Khaimah Municipality. Sean Pierce, KEO International Consultants. Mr. Majid Fayed, Dubai Supreme Council of Energy. Welcome back, Majid. And Professor Todd O'Donovan from Heriot-Watt University, Dubai. And as our valued moderator of this session, a name that I know many of you are already familiar with, Farah Naz from AECOM Middle East.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. I want to extend a warm welcome to our valued esteemed industry leaders on this panel and to all of you. Thank you so much for being with us today. So today we are going to open up a very interesting conversation. In 190 days, COP28, the biggest climate conference, will be here in the region. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's getting prepared for it. His Highness Dr. Sultan's words, we want a COP of action, a COP of impact, a COP for all, and lastly, a COP of transformation. Now, the 4 key areas for COP28 have been very publicly announced. It's about adaptation, mitigation, loss of damage, and climate finance. And a few weeks ago, the thematic themes for COP28 have been publicly announced as well. It's about climate action, it's about just, clean energy transition, health, peace and recovery, nature-based solution, water and food systems, youth education, gender and equity. So with this background, today I have a few questions and really looking forward to this amazing conversation with our esteemed panelists about the vision and mission of COP28. So I will start with my first question. Majid, if I may start with yourself. What are the key focus areas from the perspective of regional government and key industries that could influence COP28?
So I think you highlighted some of the key topics from the regional government perspective. If we look at the MENA region, countries like Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, and also in Africa, you would notice that a key topic that these countries are putting on the table is about climate adaptation. Why? Because the region, we live in a region that is classified as one of the most vulnerable regions to the consequences of climate change. So this is definitely a key topic for regional governments. Another key topic is finance, and many countries in this region have contributed very low to the climate crisis. In fact, all the region contributes to 5% of the global emissions, or even less. So the focus would be more into climate adaptation, climate finance, as well as definitely other topics as energy efficiency, as I mentioned, renewables, circular economy. Circular economy in GCC is definitely a huge opportunity. There's a lot of savings from circular economy, around $140 billion of savings if we transform our models from linear models to circular models. So these are definitely key topics: how to advance, increase penetration of renewable energy, how to facilitate collaboration between different stakeholders are definitely key topics at COP28.
Thank you so much for sharing. Pablo, if I may turn to you, from Ras Al Khaimah's perspective, what do you see as the key topics?
Thank you very much, Farah. Thank you and good morning, everyone. Regarding industry and the approach that we have at the regional level in Ras Al Khaimah, as you know, Ras Al Khaimah is a very heavily industrialized emirate, and therefore what we are trying is to help industries to reduce their energy consumption, not only for the sake of the environment per se, which also, but also to increase their competitiveness in a situation where we are struggling with energy prices, etc. So we are trying to kill two birds with one stone. One of the particular things that we are doing is to enable industries to carry out industrial energy audits. So we are facilitating from Ras Al Khaimah. We have identified energy auditors that can help these industrial companies to identify energy-saving opportunities in their core processes, not just the buildings or the kind of in the main areas where they actually consume a lot of energy. And we have got a list of empaneled auditors for different sectors, because everyone needs to do different things in the industry because of their particularities. And this is a successful program that is ongoing as we speak. We have got 9 companies signed up and a few audits happening now. So this is one of the activities that we are doing in Ras Al Khaimah. And energy management in general is going to be not only energy auditing, but energy management as a general approach is going to come from a regional level, but also even from a federal level, very likely soon.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Abdul Latif, I will turn to you. From Emirates Green Buildings perspective, what do you see as the key?
So certainly for us, it's by default, it's the building sector, right? But not because we are a green building council, because the built environment consumes or emits 40% of the total carbon emissions. But in the region, if we look at the MENA region, so the built environment can even consume more energy because of the cooling requirements, especially in the GCC part, and that even puts more pressure on the built environment. Working with other MENA GBCs, so the challenges, I would say, are different from country to country, and I refer back to Majid's point. In some countries, it's not really, the focus is on the adaptation, right? Because they face different challenges. In the GCC, in the UAE, it's more of, again, improving the efficiencies of the building, but the other important topic or area is energy. MENA region is seen as, a main energy exporter. And there's a lot of pressure on this region, probably, is to decarbonize, if I would use the word, of the energy sector in this region. So I would say energy and built environment are two key areas that is of concern for us as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So my next question is about expectations. COP28 has a lot of big expectations, the impact of COP28, especially from a government legislation towards the clean energy transition, because the UAE is one of the countries that announced the Net Zero 2050 transition roadmap. So I would really like to maybe start with Abdul Latif from yourself, that what are the expectations of the impact of COP28 from a legislation, clean energy transition, as well as UAE's announcement of 2050?
So there are high expectations, I would say, and working with our corporate members, but also individual members. So everyone is really building, if you say, hope on COP28 being hosted here in the UAE later this year. And again, you just started saying that if you say the main title of this COP is that it's the COP of actions, we want to walk the talk, as mentioned earlier. And this is what everyone is really looking forward to, is that, we really want to see by the end or the conclusion of the COP that there are actions being, agreed upon, but also taken. In previous COPs, there may be so many, if you say, plans that have been agreed upon or targets, but the actions weren't to the level of what everyone is hoping and expecting. So this is what we want this COP to be, is really the COP of actions. And then we start, everyone, acting from their side. Yes, regulation is one of the key things that we need to see, a big change in. Usually, changing regulations is slower than changing, technologies, strategies, etc. But again, we hope that this COP28 will stimulate, changes in regulations in the right way, of course.
Thank you for sharing. And I think this COP is the first global stocktake as well, which has a huge impact. Pablo, if I may turn to you, what are your thoughts on the impact of COP28?
So I think that the COP28, what it's going to do is going to help to crystallize some of those ambitions that we had, like the net zero. The net zero kind of floating in the air. Yeah, we need to reach, it's 2050, it's a little bit, no, now we have to have the clear plan. So the ambition, the high level words and the net zero, how it's actually transforming into the power, the industry, the building sector, the waste sector, all of those kind of individual plans for each individual sector needs to be kind of boiled down to individual actions. We need to take initiatives in actually adjusting kind of for example, in Ras Al Khaimah, the current strategy that we have, it was created before, it was with a target of 2040 with some percentage of savings. Obviously, we'll need to tighten that up and to actually make it align with the country's ambition. So hopefully we will be carrying out some of this exercise in the coming months in line to, as I say, crystallize and materialize these activities that need to happen to achieve those high-level ambition targets, but by doing actual real actions with industry, with building, with power, everything that is in our control.
Majd, you touched on this, walking our talk, so can you just share what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I think a COP will definitely help in detailing, as you were mentioning earlier, these commitments and targets, ensuring that we have the right policies and regulations that align with these targets, ensuring that we have the right enablers, implementation mechanisms, the right channels in terms of data and verification, reporting, communication, engagement. But I think what I really believe that the impact of COP is bringing more the stakeholders together on regional level, locally and internationally, and facilitating, catalyzing these partnerships, the right partnerships. In Dubai, we have been involving the private sector for quite a long time with several projects, solar parks, the waste-to-energy power plant, in the ESCO model, district cooling, solar rooftop programs, and we need similar partnerships that can deliver these targets. So I think COP28 will definitely help catalyze these partnerships.
Thank you so much. So a very important point you raised about the private sector. So Dr. Sultan Jaber in his speech said very clearly that the decisions of the private sectors will play a key role in understanding and creating that implementation or action plan that everybody wants to see out of this COP. I think I'm going to move to Anita yourself on this. So it's a three-part question, by the way. So what is the perspective and position of the private sector? How prepared is UAE's private sector on this transition? And what do you think needs to happen in the next 6 to 18 months to make it really actionable and walking the talk?
So thank you for having me on this panel, and it's an honor to be here speaking today. I think that what is very clear from the short discussions that we've had already today is that the private sector is depending on the public and the government entities to enable the framework to allow us to do business. And by enabling us to get the right funding, green funding, and enabling the projects to happen, with that framework in place, will make the transition happen a lot faster. Reaching net zero is a lofty target, and it will take everyone working together. It will take open door discussions where we all support each other. And the private sector definitely needs the support of the governments to enable this to happen. And I feel very optimistic about the future. Good. What was your other question?
What needs to happen in next 6 to 12 months? What actions from that private sector needs to take place? Yeah.
Well, what needs to happen is that the framework is there. I'm being told that it's there, but we need a little bit more, maybe public awareness, education, the ability to make things happen, for people to stop closing one eye and making it happen, and having a little bit of policing, maybe policing is the wrong word, but to make sure that there's not so much greenwashing going on. So seeing that there are no water bottles here is amazing, and I'm really happy. But what's behind the walls? Are there still water bottles that are filling the cups? I'm not 100% sure, but we need some type of policing action. And I really expect this COP to support carbon offset and carbon reduction projects, because those are very important. Those projects that you can quantify your reductions, your emission reductions, and you can monetize them, will support companies like ours to be able to do business as usual. So there's a lot of moving parts, and hopefully they're all moving in the same direction, and we can make it happen.
Quite a bit of actions and ownership, right?
Yes.
Walking the talk and taking the journey. Sean, if I may turn to you from a private sector perspective, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think we're really seeing a lot of uptake in the region pre-COP, where we're starting to see chief sustainability officers getting appointed. So that's identifying the need to have a strategy at an organizational level. Without a strategy and a roadmap at that organizational level, it's going to be very difficult for everybody to pull in the same direction. But that, as has been mentioned, is very heavily dictated by what sort of policy and regulations in place to support that. So there's obviously economics involved with that. There needs to be incentivization around the economics, because to make the private sector bear the burden of regulatory decision or policy decision is also a challenge at times. You know, the whole economics of the region relies heavily on the built environment. So with that sort of appointment and strategies at a developer level, to actually get everybody pulling in the same direction, we need that overarching policy that supports us and the regulation that pushes that forward. And that also then takes the economic case off the table and allows those chief sustainability officers to make the right decisions.
I might turn to you from education perspective, Tadak. What do you think?
I think, first of all, if the question is how prepared industry are, in a way, we are an educational industry, and how prepared we are, well, we like to think we're leading in a way. We have obviously a responsibility to our future generations, to who will be your employees. They will be your future leaders in industry. So in that way, we're quite prepared. This is not new anymore. Net zero discussion, sustainability is not new anymore. It is an imperative, and I think that's begun to be understood. In terms of walking the walk, talking the talk, we ourselves, as a global institution with operation across 3 different jurisdictions, have our own commitments on global environmental sustainability. And it took us a long time to get there, because we didn't want to have words. We didn't want to have greenwashing. So we spent about 6 to 9 months working on those, and they're firm commitments with a plan on how we will decarbonize our operation across, from Malaysia, here in UAE, and the UK and all the travel that we do in between. And education is very much about connecting, so it involves travel, and that obviously is carbon intensive. So the challenge is real. The plans are also real. So it feels now that we are a lot more prepared than we were before. And we obviously have a key role to play. That kind of convening power, that third of the triple helix working with industry and government is also at the forefront of what we see as our purpose and our role in society.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think this COP is a lot about lasting legacies. UNFCCC talks about lasting legacies, and they have a very specific definition of what that means. COP should be a sustainable carbon neutral event. It should leave legacies for the future generations, for people to take forward. And then UAE has also announced its own definition of lasting legacy, doing actionable insights, actions that can be taken forward from COP to the rest of the years and coming forward. So I think my question is about lasting legacies. Like, what does it mean for you? I might start with you, Majd, because you're closer. And this is a question for each of the panelists. Like, what does lasting legacy mean for you as an individual? And what lasting legacy would you like to see for COP28 to leave behind for generations to come?
Very nice
simple question. Very simple question.
Actually, the answer is simple from my perspective. I think COPs will continue to happen. Action towards climate change will continue to happen, strengthening the commitments, calling to action. But I think what makes this COP special, and COP27 as well, is it's happening in this region. And I've heard from colleagues in Egypt that COP27 has helped raising awareness among the public about what is climate action, why we care about the climate crisis, how to contribute. A specific question definitely with individuals and the public is waste. Waste sorting, recycling, how can we do that? Is it possible? So I think COP28, and I'm really hopeful and excited to see the impact and the impact it will have on the public awareness and the public opinion towards climate action. You know that the behavior and human behavior contributes to 10% of the global emissions. So we can't achieve net zero without targeting the public. And this last piece, we hopefully think that COP28 can facilitate it.
Very important point, human behavior. Sean, if I may turn to you.
Yeah, for me, you touched on a few key points, decarbonization, nature-based solutions. And for me, the lasting legacy that I'd like to see off the back end of COP is actually realizing that those nature-based solutions might also be low-hanging fruit in our decarbonization journey as carbon sinks, because we often neglect the natural environment in this, and integrating that into our overall decarbonization strategies is definitely something that I see as a lasting legacy. And it's material. You can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it. And everyday, day-to-day energy efficiency is not something that's visually represented to most people. They don't have the dashboard at the energy generator. But when you take a walk outside and you've maintained a natural habitat, for example, or enhanced it through nature-based solutions, you can go there and materially feel it. And I hope that would be the lasting legacy that comes off the back end of COP as one of the key solutions through nature-based solutions.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Pablo.
Okay. I think what I would like to see is the COP28 as a catalyst of changing our normal approach to the climate change. I would like to think like everyone is changing normal bulbs to LED bulbs now. Everyone is recycling, but those are the normal ones. How about going, and everyone is trying to save energy, let's put it like this. But how about going the extra level? How about not just changing the lights, but kind of looking for a more energy efficient, not having to use the air conditioning as much. Change the mentality, use the waste hierarchy. Like, why do we need to focus on the recycling? Maybe we don't need to generate the waste first in the first place. So go to the traditional ways that we think, I'm doing this and this is enough. Go to the actual kind of more difficult things. Go one level up in the industries that we were saying. Cement is a little bit difficult. This is difficult too. They're hard to abate. Why they are hard? They are hard because we are not used to do them. But those things that we are doing today, they were hard a few years back, no? So we need to go one level up, and the hope that COP28 becomes a catalyst to actually change everyone's attitudes and become a little bit more of an integrated and more holistic approach to the sustainability.
So small changes, one level up.
Yes,
Then
exactly.
changing light bulbs like that. Anita?
So for me, I would like to see the lasting legacy of pride in who we are and how much we have achieved in the past even 4 years here. I've lived in UAE for 16 years. I call it my home. 16 years ago, when I came and started talking about sustainability, I was speaking a completely foreign language in a region that was easily 50 years behind Europe, trying to fit that square peg into the round hole. And now we've sort of rounded the edges. We're starting to be able to understand, and the world is being able to see us, and we like to be the best and the biggest and the first. And we actually are, and we should be proud of the waste, because a country that is growing this fast is going to produce waste. So what do we do with that? Do we make less waste? No, we have to be more thoughtful. We have to be more supportive. The government is now supporting it. We need to now take action and stop complaining about everything that's wrong and be a little bit more positive. So happily on your presentation, I saw landfill gas to energy at the bottom. That never was existing before, and all landfills need to be degassed, because I had to put that in there. And I think that my legacy that I'd like to see is pride in what we've achieved and actually achieving changes.
Thank you. Abdulatif.
It's getting tougher because they've
They covered all the
not be
points. You have to
difficult for
come
you
up with new points.
But one thing I would really like to see is just before COP28 now, there's, I would say, a strong and high-level pace from everyone, organizations, individuals, on wanting to do something, to solve the issues. I would like to see this continuing even after COP28. There's I'm worried, and maybe many of my colleagues and friends, is that after COP28 we get back to, if you say, normal, or we calm down. I think, yes, we calm down, but we should continue these efforts. So I would like to see this continuous, sustainable, if you say, interest, but also actions.
Thank you. And last, not least.
Yeah, well, first of all, a great question to ask a university, and a university as mine, as we trade in impact. This is what we do. This is our currency. We're a charity worldwide, so money is kind of secondary to us. It's what we achieve and the impact we have that matters. So what the impact that we hope to have from and with COP. Well, if you can indulge me, I'll give you two. There's one, we want to partner with industry, and we have a plan to elevate clean tech companies so they can demonstrate their tech and their solutions. And that's important for us because it's changing the dial a little bit in what sustainability is. It's about making sustainability sustainable, so it's seeing the business opportunity in that, and we do that through research and education, of course. The other, and probably more importantly, as our impact, will be to elevate the student voice. This is a youth engagement, and the voice of future generations is obviously very important as the ones that will have to live with the potential impacts of climate change. So that is important, but it's not just that. It's also that younger generations have creativity and innovation that is yet untapped. And I think that we need to, we have a role in elevating that student or that youth voice in COP, and that's what I hope would be a sustaining legacy of COP for us.
Thank you so much. So audience, now it's your turn. You have heard, oh wow, somebody already pulled their hand up. She was all ready. So you've heard from 6 esteemed industry leaders what the lasting legacy means. I don't know how much time we have, maybe 7 minutes. But the lady in white dress, can someone give her a microphone, please? She was all ready to ask a question.
Yeah, I was thinking about this question throughout. My name is Lara El-Saad. Thank you very much for all the information that you shared. We're talking about legacy, we're talking about COP28, we're talking about all the great work that's been done, and you know, there was, Majd, in the beginning, you mentioned that, you know, let's say in the global south, there's a bit of a challenge in terms of financing, knowledge sharing, you know, expertise and whatnot. It's all there, but I think we haven't tapped into it in the right way. And I think this is a great opportunity. So I guess my question is, you know, as we each try to move towards achieving net zero, I feel we're very siloed. Like, you know, the UAE wants to achieve, it has its net zero journey, Kuwait has its net zero journey, you know, the rest of the GCC has their net zero journey, but how much knowledge sharing is happening so that maybe as a GCC, we start moving forward with one voice, because, you know, the UAE achieving net zero isn't going to significantly reduce the temperature, right? If everyone else is. So the question is how much is the knowledge sharing
within
happening?
the GCC.
Yeah.
Abdul-Latif, would you like to take this question as the director of EGVC?
There is knowledge sharing between different countries and different parties, maybe not enough and not really to the highest level. There are challenges. Each country has its own, if you say, different requirements, but also conditions, which makes it difficult when we, you know, as green building councils, when we discuss this in the MENA region, sometimes we as councils find that, you know what is of interest in the UAE is not really of an interest in Jordan or in Lebanon or in Egypt, and vice versa. So this by itself is a challenge. But I agree with you, and I would say, yes, we need more of this, not just knowledge sharing, but also working together, right? Sometimes the solution is in working together. If you have those separate silos, as you said, and different, if you say, strategies, it may make it very difficult or more difficult on achieving the targets. So I support what you're saying a lot.
Is anybody else would like to share?
So I'd like to say something. Actually, the world has changed so much and is changing so fast. The way that we are able to communicate with each other without ever having to leave our beds even. I mean, you can just put a nice top on and no one can know where you are. And that type of change and technology is allowing knowledge to be shared openly. So you can, like, I mean, people make fun of Googling stuff, but you can Google so many things and find out what's happening, and then you can put it out there and ask the questions. Ask the questions. This is the important thing. Knowledge sharing can only happen if the questions are asked. How would I know what you're thinking unless you come and ask me, okay, you said landfill gas. What is that? What is gas in a landfill? Especially in a region where it's an oil and gas region. At first, they thought we found a gas find in the landfill, but it's not. It's from decomposing waste, and it's from the organic portion. So the incineration plants are good, but does that support recycling? So all of these questions, and I'm relating it to waste because that's my industry, but all that knowledge sharing happens by people asking the questions. So the doors will be open, and they are open, but we need to ask the questions.
Thank you so much. We are a bit, there's one more, okay, just one more question. The gentleman.
Hi, my name is Dr. Hussein. I'm a physician, actually, so I'm an intruder here. I'm a spy, actually, here. So I would like to thank you, actually, to arranging this meeting, because when you talk about sustainability, you talk about earth health at the end. It is something we need to talk about, because at the end, we as a physician, we are seeing the earth health is related to our own health, actually. So having this scientific meeting and discussion, try to decarbonize and reach net zero is great. So thank you very much for doing that. But we still need to do more work to convince the industry what we are doing is not for earth only. It's for us, for our children, for our new generation. There's a lot of scientific data in the medical literature says the global warming and the pollution and the carbon footprint is related to developmental delay in children. There's a lot of data saying that this is related to cardiac disease, to lung cancer. There are many people who live healthy style life. Nothing, suddenly they get disease. They don't know from where. It's from the global warming. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that. So. Oh,
Farah, if I can just ask one more question, maybe you'd like to share this perhaps with the panel. How do you personally, you work for one of the most innovative global organizations that I know are regularly lobbying the Emirates, for instance, here, with new ideas for urban renewal, urban replanning, and so on. How do you see the role of this region in being innovative, an innovative force in the conclusions of implementing COP28? What do you think?
wow, that's a question for me. That's the first time. I think we're all in a journey. The net zero and the clean energy transition, I don't think that's, it's not a destination, it's a journey. Globally, 240 cities have signed up for net zero transition, and only 60 cities in the world actually have a net zero framework and roadmap.
Absolutely.
I think what collaboratively we're trying to do in the panel and all of us is to really understand what is the actionable insight that we can take and translate into small steps, medium steps, and big steps. It is, I recently wrote a book about this, okay, and essentially I'm an optimist. So it is possible, and there's a research data by World Green Building Council and other organizations that show that we have all the technology, we have all the knowledge, the funding is there, it's just connecting the dots and creating that roadmap. This is a human crisis, it's not just a climate crisis. So it's going to take major shifts from a business side and from a mindset side. And I think that's what globally these COP conferences are about. We often focus on the negatives, but there are lots of positive things happening as well.
Indeed.
And
yeah.
I think one of the COP presidents, Christina Figueres, who was in charge of I'm sure you all know the story. In 2009, in Copenhagen conference, the Paris Agreement fell apart, and Christina Figueres was assigned to, as by UN, to create the Paris Agreement. And it took her from 2010 to 2015, 5 years. And she wrote a book about it. It's called The Future We Chose. And what she talks about is unrelenting optimism. And I think what you heard today on the stage here and on the ground here, you have to be optimistic and take your part and do your actions. I think for too long, there is a vibe in the industry that it's the climate scientist who's going to deal with climate change. But now it's so evident that all of us needs to come together and do our part, however small and large. So I think that's my response to your question.
What a great response and what a great summary. Huge round of applause for that fantastic panel. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.